Hello, my name is Laviant Lewis. I'm a senior at Orange High School, and recently I've read an opinion piece about House Bill 187 titled America's Goal for Education Revealed, a Smokescreen for White Fragility. With laws historically favoring the white demographic of our country, will House Bill 187 strip our black and brown youth from an unbiased, anti-racist education? One of my fondest memories from my childhood is riding home from school in my mother's '05 Honda Accord. Music from mindless behavior would gracefully fall upon my ears as I communicated the best parts of my day. Music became a big part of my childhood. My mother played music by Lauryn Hill and Jill Scott, while my father played music from Jeezy and Jay-Z. Their lyrics were words of affirmation that made me proud to be black. As I got older, I developed an even greater appreciation for the black culture my parents exposed me to because it helped me shape my own identity as a black kid. But as a kid, I didn't understand what it meant to be black. I knew there was an unfair stigma directed towards us. I knew there were people who were hunted because of the same dark pigmentation that I share. However, I couldn't wrap my premature mind around why racial groups were treated differently. I would watch monochromatic media and feel as if we as a nation had moved past our racist history. It wasn't until 2012, the year that Trayvon Martin was unjustly murdered by the hands of George Zimmerman, when I realized the hunt for my culture and its people didn't wash away with the introduction of colored television. At age 7, I began to understand the extreme consequences of being black. Thankfully, my parents did a great job of reassuring my love for its skin and its complexion. Racial tensions stem from both conscious and unconscious perception of people we are afraid to acknowledge. For black Americans, our humanity was forcefully stolen through slavery. Still, through centuries of physical and psychological abuse, there's been no attempt to restore the way black Americans are represented in the American psyche. The effects have dehumanized the perception of black Americans, deeming us inferior to other people. These tensions feel fixated and unable to be overthrown. However, the answer to this ongoing issue relies on our school systems. It can be achieved through the means of education. Regardless of material, education has been and will continue to be the main component to an ideal society that recognizes and acts upon the issues between all people. However, one must have access to a painfully true yet necessary teaching of history that relates to their own personal positioning in this country. The cultural appreciation my parents worked so hard to firmly establish in me was destroyed during middle school. Around this time was when I learned to code switch. Code switching is the adjustment of one's style of speech, appearance, or overall self-expression for the purpose of fitting into a demographic that is different from their usual environment. This wasn't my attempt to fit into the white demographic, but an attempt to survive amongst a group of people who would exclude me if not. My code switching stemmed from the lack of attention black and brown students were given in the history that I was learning. I started to feel as if there had to be a reason why I only learned about traumatizing, inhumane acts regarding black people in American history. It wasn't until my 10th grade year, better known as the year of quarantining, where I learned an in-depth account of black history in America. I read, I listened, I dreadfully felt the history of black Americans through my own research and learning. It was all information that our school system failed to teach. Transitioning into my junior year, I had the opportunity to take an honest level African American history class taught by a black man at a predominantly white school led by black principals. It all felt extremely surreal in comparison to my previous experiences in school. I didn't know at the time, but this class would lead me to a learning of self-appreciation via education. In African American history, we learned unbiased information pertaining to black Americans pre-slavery that later leads to principles our country still enforces to this day. The teaching of Black history did two very important things for us as students. The first being the destruction of ignorant beliefs about Black Americans. The second being the achieved communication between Black and white students on topics of race and racism. For the first time, the material we learned represented Black people as human. For both Black and white students, there are misconceptions about Black people that may not be intentionally ignorant, but nevertheless contribute to the plight of Black Americans. We read literature written by previously enslaved people, and as our brain made space for a newer, much more ideal representation of Black people, Black, brown, and white students started to communicate fearlessly. Where we once spoke so timidly, so cautiously with each other, was now a community of young adults excited to share their insight on history. We created a space of accountability and love through the means of education. House Bill 187 will destroy the foundation of communication that we students worked so hard to build. At face value, the bill claims to recognize the equality and rights of all persons in schools. However, banning the teaching of an unbiased, anti-racist education is an act of discrimination in itself. This is not an act of protecting all persons. This is an act of protecting our nation's white fragility. In short, white fragility is the defensive reaction white people tend to occupy when confronted with broader ideas of race from a universal outlook. Unfortunately, white fragility has been an issue that people of color have had to give precedence to for centuries. Just as we began to make headway towards a socially aware society, our state legislature decided to take that away. All the heartfelt conversations, all the relations built between completely different individuals, it will all be washed away through the introduction of House Bill 187. I'm left with many questions and concerns regarding the focus of our leaders. Though I am reaching the end of my 12 years of education, I feel for the following generation of students who will miss out on the opportunities this class has brought me. For the Black and brown students who feel out of place and unimportant while attending school, House Bill 187 will reassure their pre-existing feelings of imposter syndrome and neglect of identity. For the white students who hear ignorant and biased accounts of history at home, House Bill 187 will serve as an echo chamber for white fragility and strip away the need to understand the people who they share this country with. And to our state legislator who have yet to understand the negative impact of this bill, I'd like to say my piece. Black history is not a chapter in American history. It is at the foundation. Without a fixed foundation, our country will remain insecure and unsteady. The Black American has had no true reconstruction era. We have yet to see a true attempt to restore our humanity. House Bill 187 is proof that our nation is dying in need of education. Without it, we contribute to the cycle of ignorance that can only be stopped through the means of teaching an unbiased, anti-racist education.